I'd like to start off by saying, which you often don't hear, I'm a capitalist. I stand for free markets and free trade. And I would like to leave a couple of thoughts in your mind because you're a young generation. The future of India is in your hands. And I'm going to distill the philosophy. I'm going to simplify the philosophy for you. At the very core, what capitalism means is the smallest possible government where people are allowed to live freely, trade freely, make what they can make, and sell it in a marketplace. This may not sound like a big deal, but it actually is a big deal. And how does that fit into Gandhian philosophy? In fact, I'm a big admirer of Mahatma Gandhi. When I was about your age, I read his book, Experiments in Truth, deeply influenced by it. But there are some paradoxes in Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy, which I'll get to. Mahatma Gandhi comes this close to being a capitalist and slips away. He almost gets there but slips away. And this is the tragedy of India, why we as a country are backward. And why should you care? Leave your academics aside, everything else aside. It affects your life, your standards of living. In 1990, China and India were almost equal. Today, China is 5 times wealthier than India. If I can translate that into your life, if you had just grown like China, since you folks don't work, your parents work, your mother and your father, whoever are working, they would be earning 5 times more. And this is why economic ideology is important. Understanding the economics. And we have made it so complicated, so difficult, with hundreds of pages of books. But it boils down to something very simple. Any country with government interference is minimal has prospered immensely. And this is a philosophy that was discovered 2,500 years ago by Lauzu. He is a Chinese philosopher. And I'll quote, and you'll be surprised, 2,500 years ago, Lauzu, his quotations come so close to Gandhi. But he was more of a capitalist. And as I said, Gandhi slips away. Lauzu says the more prohibitions there are, the poorer the people become. The more laws and edicts are exhibited, the more thieves and robbers there are. You all heard of License Raj, which destroyed India from 1950s to till 1990. And this is exactly what Lauzu is saying 2,500 years ago. The more prohibitions there are, the poorer the people become. What has happened to India after independence till 1990? It became so bad, people were saying, we are better off under British. What has Swaraj given us? Poverty, misery, disease, hunger, and death. And Lauzu says, the people go hungry because their supervisors consume too much in taxes. You folks are too young to know this. At one stage when Indira Gandhi was Prime Minister, her tax rate reached to 105%. So if you earned 10 lakhs, your tax is 10,50,000. So you have to return the entire salary and you have to sell some assets and pay 50,000 more to the government. This happened in 1970s and 80s. Yet the wisdom was there 2,500 years ago, which we missed. And communist China figured this out in 1990 and we failed. And again, you don't need to read 500 pages of books. It's just reduce the role of the government in the society, cut down the taxes, and we prosper. And in 1600s, King Louis, French King, Louis XIV, had a finance minister, like our wonderful finance minister now. Mercantilism means tariffs. Today, the biggest topic around the world is tariffs. He was a big fan of tariffs, like Trump. Everybody's looting us, taking advantage of us. They are selling out their goods for cheap, but they put restrictions on us. He was a big mercantilist guy. He was all about how much tariff here, what kind of restrictions I can put on exports, so on and so forth. Then one day he called all the big businessmen in France. He's not King Louis XIV, King Louis XIV's finance minister, Colbert, Jean-Baptiste Colbert. Exactly like Trump called. I don't know if anybody remember. Trump called everybody to White House. Mark Zuckerberg was there, Bill Gates was there. I think Elon Musk had a fight with Trump by then. Satya Nadella was there, and Microsoft, Sundar Pichai was there. Everybody was there. And Trump was going, how much are you investing? How much are you investing? So exact same scene. This is the tragedy of the world. We keep on repeating the same thing over and over and over and again. So Colbert calls all these French successful businessmen and says, the country wants to help you. What can we do for you? And the businessmen say, laissez-faire means please don't do anything for us. That's the greatest service you can do. Don't help us. Stop interfering in our businesses. Stop taxing us. Stop tariffs. And that's how laissez-faire became a very famous phrase in economics. And fast forward, we are still going through the same. What I said about Gandhi is, he came very close to being a capitalist but slipped away. And here is what Gandhi says. The state represents violence in a concentrated and organized form. The individual has a soul, but as the state is a soulless machine, it can never be weaned from violence to which it owes its very existence. And this last line is very important. Government is best which governs the least. This is Mahatma Gandhi. But of course, I'll get to it. He fails to follow through. He preaches, but he doesn't follow. And that's the tragedy of India, and that's a tragedy with Nehru and everybody else, and that's the cause for our poverty. But the greatest thing about Mahatma Gandhi is he realizes government is an institute of violence. That may sound too radical to you. But how does government get its power from? Why do we respect the government? Because it has the power of the gun. Right? Government taxes you. You refuse to tax, you get 2 notices, 3 notices. Then the tax collector comes. You still don't pay. Then an arrest warrant comes. Right? Because you're refusing to go and refusing to pay. Then the police come. What does the police come with? Gun. And that is exactly what Mahatma Gandhi is talking. The state represents violence in a concentrated and organized form. And this is what, when Mahatma Gandhi stood for non-violence, there is a deeper philosophy behind what he stood for, which was non-violent state. When he says Swaraj, yes, it is independence and freedom from the British, but he's also talking about self-rule, which is again Gram Swaraj. It is a much deeper concept. What he's saying is, yes, I want independence from British, but I don't want another ruler in Delhi or Hyderabad or Amravati sitting and ruling over me. I want every village to be independent. I want every village to administer itself. Yet, as I said, there are paradoxes. I was very happy to see the khadi that it was given by the Loyola Academy today. I want to particularly thank Professor Bhavani, Professor Wani, Professor Shafiq Ahmed. I know Professor Madhu has been behind me to come talk to you. He's been persistent. I wouldn't be here. I mean, he's called me so many times. We exchanged so many messages. He's persistent. Thank you, Professor Madhu, for having me. And it's an honor to meet you all. And these are the kind of lectures we actually need, enrich your experiences. It's funny, when I lived in the US, we used to hire, economics is a most sought after major to hire employees. And in India, it's all about technology, computers, AI, so on and so forth. Because economics is a much broader subject. You have a better world view. And of course, public administration, I'm more of what I teach is public non-administration, because I believe in small government, and government should not interfere in people's lives. So going back to Gandhi, Gandhi was for small government. Gandhi saw evil in the government. Gandhi wanted government to be as small as possible. If you recollect what he said, government is best which governs the least. That was not his line. It was Thoreau who said it. And Gandhi admitted it was Thoreau, but he said, I am in favor of what Thoreau has said. Government that administers the least. Yet, he was for tariffs and export controls. On one hand, he says small government, yet he says we cannot allow imports freely, because imports that destroy local employment are not welcome, whereas imports that are not available in India, I will allow. So, he was against import of textiles, but he said allow surgical instruments, typewriters, bicycles and sewing machines, which India didn't have. And once you start playing with what can be imported, what can be exported, we'll soon reach King Louis XIV Colbert problem. All the businessmen will go to the government, they'll start lobbying, and they'll influencing The government. See, you don't have access to the government. You agree? Can you meet Modi? Who can call Modi and go meet him? Or Amit Shah? Okay, somebody should flag me. I talk too much, so just let me know. And we should leave some time for questions. How many can you pick up your phone and reach Nirmala Sitharaman, let's say? None, I think. I can't reach either. But if Ambani or Adani can call, will they pick up? Yeah. And they'll say, make in India, right? All these electronics coming from China and America and every other country are destroying our employment. So put tariffs so that our jobs are safe. And our leaders will come out and say, yeah, make in India. And that's what we did from 1950s to 1990s. And that's what Trump is doing to the United States today. And the funny thing about tariffs is, in 2008, right, what Trump argues is European Union is sending all their goods to America without paying any tariffs. China is dumping everything. And European Union in 2008 is $15 trillion economy. European Union in 2008 is a $15 trillion economy. US in 2008 is a 15 trillion. Both are equal. EU and US were almost equal. Fast forward to Trump era, before Trump became the president. What is US economy? 30 trillion. 15 to 30. What happened to EU? 19. Who did better? US. And what is Trump crying about? The countries that impose tariffs, which are EU, are backward or haven't grown as much as the US. And US has kicked the ball out of the park. Look at the companies in the US today. They're global. They're everywhere. Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Twitter, now AI revolution, Microsoft, Google. I mean, they're everywhere in the world. They're doing so great. Their unemployment, and then Trump keeps saying, we are losing our jobs to China. We are losing our jobs to EU. You know what their unemployment rate is? 4%. And you know what 4% is called in economics? Some of the economics students, it's called full employment. Why is 4% called full employment? Because some people will be losing jobs, some people will be getting jobs. There's a lot of, churn that happens. Yet, we live in this world today. And if you look at communist China and India, communists are supposed to be, a lot of restrictions, a lot of laws, a lot of regulations. The government controls everything. And we are a free country. Since 1990, we liberalized. You know what their average, trade-weighted average tariff is, China? 3 to 4%. India, 12 to 15%. You can just go look across the world. You will see every country where the property rights are strong, taxation is low, regulation is limited, countries prosper immensely. And the last thing I want to talk, before I conclude, I should leave some room for questions, is since this is a lecture on Gandhi, and as I said, Gandhi just slips away from being a capitalist in the last minute. His ideology is strong, but he couldn't follow through, is what he calls trusteeship. Gandhi was against profit. And the entire human society runs on profit. Profit is good. Greed through fair trade is the most desirable thing. And we have been time and again taught it is bad. Why is greed good? A businessman who is greedy, who does business fairly, right? He doesn't cheat people, he doesn't lie. He makes what he makes and he sells. I was doing farming, growing oranges. When will I make money? I'm greedy. I want profit, I want money. How can I make profit and money as somebody who grows oranges? By growing a lot of orange. So I grow a lot of orange, give it all to you, and you'll only buy if you find it valuable. Nobody's putting a gun to your head and making you buy. They're saying, I'm saying, here are my oranges. Would you like to buy? Only if you need it, if you want it, you'll pay me and you'll buy. So you benefit in the transaction. If it's not beneficial to you, you'll not buy. If I make an iPhone, I'm Steve Jobs, I made an iPhone. I will not get rich unless you buy, unless you need it, unless it is serving your purpose. A profit-seeking businessman is doing a social service. Bill Gates was the wealthiest man on the planet. How did he become the wealthiest man? Was he greedy? Yeah. Did he make billions in profit? Yeah. But before the Bill Gates, there was no computer on every desk and every lap. Today, the entire world has desktops and laptops. How did it happen? Millions and millions got them. It's because of the power of profit and greed. Now, there is bad greed. I'm not admitting. I'm not saying that there is nothing. So bad greed is people who cheat. They'll tell you this iPhone and they'll give you a crappy phone, fake phone. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this iPhone. I'm talking about Amazon. What a revolution it has brought about. Literally changed not millions, billions of people's lives. It was a hassle to go to the mall, spend 2 hours, looking at clothes, looking at shoes, looking at everything. Now you sit at home, read reviews, click buttons, and it comes. He has revolutionized your lives. That's how we became wealthy, right? So Mahatma Gandhi feels profit is bad. Now, if students of economics know, where does investment come from? Investment comes from savings, right? People save money, S equal to I is the equation. Savings equal to investment, your profits become savings. If you look at all the wealthy people, take the 10 wealthiest people, their money is not sitting under their mattresses. It gets invested in other companies, creates employment, creates more jobs. So, saying that, I would like to conclude by saying Mahatma Gandhi has been with me ever since my college days with his autobiography, Experiment with Truth. You should absolutely read it. And the most important thing he says is about being truthful, which makes your life so easy because you don't have to remember anything. And Mark Twain, I think, follows up with that later. If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. This is something you should experiment with. You absolutely read his book. Of course, he's father of our nation. We should all be proud. But, we should not be a blind follower of anybody. You should have your own critical thinking. You should have your own rational mind, objective analysis. You could have, nobody is perfect. People have different angles to what they believe in. So you have to be an independent thinker more than anything. We should not become, devotees as if they are gods. Everybody have their own pluses and minuses, just like you and just like me. With that, I'll conclude. And if you have any questions, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insights, especially the way you mentioned about the tariff system in different nations. And I also really thank you for bringing J.S. Mill's comment, that is, government is the best that governs least. It has been followed by Gandhiji. Actually, this is the slogan or the quote by J.S. Mill, the individualist. Okay, anyhow, thank you, sir, for the model, how diplomatically the father of our nation spoke little about capitalism and did touch completely. So much, really decentralized model advocated by him and all he spoke. So thank you so much. Yes, students, do you have any questions? Only 2 questions.
My name is Rita and my question is, as India's markets are increasingly concentrating towards corporate giants like Adanis and Ambanis, how can we ensure that, how can the state ensure that we are preventing monopolistic tendencies in the market while at the same time ensuring there is inclusive growth in the economy and more people have access to the free market?
That makes it easy. I don't have to shout. I know I've seen several hands raised, and I know Professor Madhu said only 2 questions, but I'll be here. I'm in the business. I call myself an evangelist of capitalism. So the more I educate you, I'm moving more towards my goal. So I'm not going to run away. We'll get to a couple of questions. I'll be here. You should challenge me. You should, criticize me. You should put me on the spot and tell me why I'm wrong. So as far as monopolies are concerned, you see, every time I talk about it, the first thing that comes up in capitalism is monopolies. And there are hardly any monopolies in capitalism. And yet, we constantly worry about monopolies in capitalism. Where are monopolies? Monopolies are always there in the government. Right? Indian Railways is monopoly. Air India was a monopoly. BSNL was a monopoly, right? And I can go on and on. Your electricity department is a monopoly. Your water department is a monopoly. And they use the monopoly and they fleece people like anything. You get a water connection. You try to get an electric connection. How horrible Indian Railways are. We recently saw the Indigo crisis and everybody was, way up in their arms saying what a disaster privatization is. You know something? There is a daily Indigo in Indian Railways, which we don't talk about. Every day is an Indigo crisis in Indian Railways, right? You can't get tickets. And you get into the general compartment. I mean, it's a shame in 21st century we have this. Now, coming to your question, yes, monopolies are a problem. Monopolies are usually come from the grant of the government. And you mentioned Ambani, Adani, so on and so forth. We don't need to just name them. Any company that benefits from a grant or a protection from the government becomes a monopoly. And that is what we should fight against. And that is where, how does that change? It comes through policy change. Small government, less regulation means government doesn't have the power. When you give 50 lakh crore rupee budget, right? And the state government budget is 3-4 lakh crores. That's a lot of money for people to get attracted. So keep the government small, keep the regulations low, then the businessmen don't have to go chase. If you keep giving the government the power to tariff, they'll keep running to them saying, this industry is struggling, 2,000 jobs will be gone, so tariff. I mean, the solution again is, as I said, if you walk away, see, you will hear 1,000 lectures in your life. There's one thing, one line, if you could remember for the rest of your life, is for the country to prosper, the role of the government should be minimal. And that answers all of the questions that you asked. భారతదేశాన్ని 78 ఏళ్లుగా కటిక దారిద్ర్యంలో ఉంచింది సోషలిస్ట్ భావజాలం. మన దేశం అభివృద్ధి చెందాలంటే క్యాపిటలిజం ఒకటే మార్గం. మీ నగరంలో క్యాపిటలిస్ట్ వ్యవస్థ మీద నాతో చర్చాగోష్ఠికి కింది నెంబర్కి ఫోన్ చేయండి.